You know, the biggest revolutions, they don't always start with a bang. Sometimes it's just one person quietly chipping away at a wall that seems impossible to break. And that's the story we're diving into today. The story of a pioneer who did just that and ended up changing his country from one of its most forgotten corners.
And that really is a powerful question, isn't it? The answer? Well, it gets to the heart of what it takes to not just survive a system that's stacked against you, but to actually turn it on its head and change it from the inside.
In that answer, it's all wrapped up in the life of this one man. So let's get into his incredible story.
So this is Dr. Gajaram Damai. Right now, he's a campus chief, a real beacon of hope in a part of Nepal that's often overlooked. But to really get the scale of what he's accomplished, you have to go back. You have to understand the world he came from.
So let's do that. Let's go back to his childhood. Because his story isn't really about what he had. It's about all the barriers he had to smash through.
Okay, to really grasp his journey, you need to understand this one word, Dalit. In Nepal, that word meant you were born at the very bottom of the historical caste system. It meant facing a lifetime of deeply ingrained discrimination. This was the first wall, maybe the highest one he had to climb, and it was put in front of him the second he was born.
And then there's the sheer geography of it all. We're talking over 700 kilometers of brutal, rugged mountains between his tiny village and the capital, Kathmandu. And look, that's not just a number on a map. That distance meant total isolation. It was like being cut off from the entire world of opportunity.
And that isolation, well, it had real consequences. The numbers don't lie. You can see it right here. Literacy in his far west region was always lagging way behind the rest of the country. It's like he wasn't just starting the race from behind, he was starting in a completely different city. I mean, just think about this for a second. As a Dalit child back then, the odds were just astronomically against him. Statistically, more than half the kids just like him dropped out before they even finished primary school. So for him, just showing up to class every day, that was an act of rebellion. And you can see that fighting spirit early on. Even when he was a young teacher himself, he was already pushing back. One of his former students said his letters of encouragement were like lifelines across the mountains. That really tells you something, right? This was never just a job for him. It was a mission, right from the start. Then comes 1989, and Dr. Damai makes this huge, life-changing decision. He leaves his village and travels all the way to Kathmandu to go to university. I mean, you can't overstate what a massive leap that was, leaving everything he'd ever known behind. But, of course, the big city just threw a whole new set of challenges at him. People saw him as an outsider from the far west. He was shut out of things like student housing that were available to others. He had to scrape by tutoring other students just so he could afford a little kerosene to read by at night. I mean, his grit was being tested every single day.
So, after all that, after fighting so hard to get his master's and then his PhD, he had a choice to make, a really critical one. He could have easily stayed in the capital. He could have gone pretty much anywhere in the world. But he didn't. He chose to go back.
And you have to understand how radical that choice was. We're talking about a time when Nepal was facing this massive grain drain. Something like 60% of graduates were leaving the country. So Dr. Damai didn't just go against the flow. He swam directly against the tidal wave, all the way back to the very place everyone else was desperate to leave. He decided to take everything he'd learned and plant it right back where it was needed most.
That decision is what led him to a place called Siddhanath Science Campus. We'll call it SSC. And this is really the point where his own personal story of resilience starts to become something bigger, a story about building a lasting legacy for an entire community.
And wow, when he became campus chief, the impact was immediate, and it was huge. He started up these modern IT and computer science programs, he added master's degrees, and in just a handful of years, student enrollment exploded by 300%. Just incredible.
Think about that. He took this small, kind of forgotten campus with maybe 300 students and turned it into this bustling hub for over 1,200. He wasn't just making a school bigger, he was building an engine of opportunity, right in the middle of a place that the rest of the country had basically forgotten.
But here's the kicker. All this growth, it wasn't because the system suddenly fixed itself. Oh no, not at all. His campus still gets a tiny fraction of the central university budget, less than 20%. And that's in a region where education spending is already lower than average. So the conclusion is pretty clear, right? He's doing so much more with so much less.
So how's he doing it? What's the secret sauce? Well, his whole approach is basically a real-world example of this idea called the pedagogy of the oppressed. It means he doesn't just stand at the front of the room and lecture at these students who come from backgrounds just like his. No, he empowers them. He turns them into partners in their own education, and together they challenge the exact kind of top-down system that tried to keep him down.
When you look at it, Dr. Damai's life is so much more than just an inspiring story. It's a roadmap. It's a practical blueprint for how you could build a fairer, better education system, not just in Nepal, but anywhere.
Yeah, his success isn't just a feel-good tale. It points directly to real, concrete policies. First, put the money where it's needed most. Fund these remote regions fairly. Second, make sure your leaders actually look like the people they're serving. Bring in more diverse voices. And third, use technology to build bridges, the same kinds of bridges he once had to cross on foot. Ultimately, his life story proves something really profound. It shows that education, when you combine it with genuine humility and just sheer grit, can tear down the highest walls. It's proof that real, lasting change doesn't come from the top down. It comes from the ground up, pushed forward by people who just refuse to accept the limits society tries to put on them.
And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. See, Dr. Damai's story, it isn't just about Nepal. It's universal. It kind of makes you want to look around your own world and ask, who are the quiet pioneers here? Who are the people working tirelessly without any fanfare to build a better future in my community?